welcome to another up close video. Today's video is looking at Tonic showcase number 12, which means that the showcase has now been going for an entire year, which is crazy. And this one is called Happy Holidays, and it is slightly different to some of the other showcases because we've actually got an A5 die set, an A6 stamp set rather than an A5 one, plus a stencil as well. I think this is about 7-inch square stencil. And the stencil actually coordinates with some of the dies, or could be used as a standalone stencil, and there's loads of like extra little elements on here that are fantastic for building up your backgrounds as well. So a really nice versatile kind of set that has got all sorts in that you can mix and match to create your Christmas cards, and I think this would work really nicely with the Snow Much Fun stamp, die and blister set that came out in Tonic's birthday week. I think having the little characters like standing in front of here or in front of the tree would look absolutely beautiful as well, especially if you love making larger cards or even like longer scene cards as well. You could even have the tree hanging like above a DL card, like so a DL would be about that sort of size. The tree could be standing above it, and then you could have like the little penguin or the snowman and build a kind of scene in there as well. So I think this is a nice set that will work with other ones that have come out as well, or just by itself. And I think these beautiful Christmas trees are brilliant for creating lovely, intricate looking but very simple and quick to make kind of Christmas cards as well. Sentiment wise, there's not that many sentiments, like separate little sentiments to use in here, so I think these will be really nice, especially this one, to use in conjunction with other Christmas sentiments you might have bought in the past as well, or any other sentiment stamps. This tree is completely full of sentiments which you can make use of and snip out as well, or you do also get Merry Christmas here too, but I do think these trees in particular, this one does have Happy Holidays written inside it, but this one would work perfectly with any other Christmas sentiments that you might already have, just to sort of, you know, change it up a little bit. Instead of using Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas, you could do Let It Snow, Winter Wishes, Winter Wonderland, all sorts of extra like different kind of sentiments as well. I think this is going to be a really lovely set to have in your stash. So let's look at the die set first. So we've got an A5 die set, and because it's a showcase, you get it in the A5 folder with that little insert that gives you a little bit of inspiration on the back of it of a few ways of how you could use these stamped dies and stencils. And then you also get the double-sided... Oh, I wondered why there wasn't many snowy pieces. I just realised that one was on the back of the sheet. Well, that's annoying. I could have used that. I could have sworn there was more than 2 snowy pieces, but I could only find the 2 when I was making my cards. Okay, well, at least I found that, so I can show you that little snow piece as well. But yeah, it comes on a double-sided magnetic sheet, so if you have those penguins and snowmen, you could also put them on the back of this sheet, so then all of your Christmas stuff is in the same pouch as well if you wanted to. Or having that piece of card inside there really helps stop the double-sided of the magnetic sheet sticking to the next one in your folder as well, which is also quite nice, and it gives you that inspiration. So in that case, you might not want to put it double-sided, or you might want to space these dies out more and put some on the back and some on the front as well. So lots of different ways you can sort of place your dies and store them and everything. And I've said this in a few videos, but this A5 folder with the 2 holes on here fits perfectly in your craft kit binders. If you maybe just buy the odd craft kit and, you know, haven't really filled up a binder, you could put these kind of ones in there, or you can also get the Designer's Choice or the orange, just Tonic Studios branded zipped up kind of folders as well to store them in. Or if you're in the UK, I'm not sure about anywhere else in the world, but in the UK this is just a standard like 2-hole punch, so any kind of A5 ring binder, they'd fit in there nicely as well. So yeah, different ways of storing it. So let's have a look at this die set up close. So you can see the gorgeous large Christmas trees. I'll show you those first actually, and I'll take the dies off. So we have this really lovely large Christmas tree. It is slightly too big to fit on an A6 or an A2 card. However, I've still been using it on it and not worrying about any little bits that sort of hang over the edge of it. I don't really mind if that happens. But measurements wise, the widest part of this is about 11.5 centimetres. Oh no, that's from the actual metal. So it's about 11 centimetres is the widest part, or 4 3/8 inches is the widest part, and then the tallest part of the tree is 12 centimetres or 4 3/4 inches. So actually it would fit really nicely on a square card. It's quite a nice proportion for a square card. I didn't actually do any square cards, but it would work really nicely on a square one. And then the two sort of intricate tree designs that can go inside this, both of these coordinate with this outside edge. This one is really beautiful. It says Happy Holidays inside it. You can see the happy and the holidays going up there. And there's loads of gorgeous holly swirls within here, more at the top, little berries, perfect places for putting your Nuvo drops or gems or anything. Really, really pretty designs. I will show you them cut out on my samples. And actually, I quite like layering this one on top of the other one to give a really lovely look as well. So I think they work really nicely in conjunction with each other too. So that is the first main design. And then you also have this design as well, which fits perfectly in the outside edge. And this one has got more of like the actual sort of tiers of the tree sort of indicated on there with these sort of gorgeous scallopy, wonky scallopy sections. You've got like strings of baubles or beads going across the tree as well. You've got little tiny star baubles hanging on there, circular baubles, some that the middle comes out, some that they're just solid, perfect for Nuvo drops. You've got little baubles that have snowflakes inside them, and the little snowflakes that fall away are really lovely to paper piece back in, or just to use on another card as well with the other snowflake die that's in the die set. So you've got different sizes then as well, but it's just full of beautiful detail, this one. And I think this will make really lovely, simple Christmas cards. So if you want something that's really quick to do lots of them, maybe you're making them to sell for charity, or maybe you're making them to give to like the residents of an old people's home or something. These can be really nice quick Christmas cards, but they'll look really gorgeous and fancy, especially if you use glitter cards and mirror card and stuff like that with them, and embellish them with gems and Nuvo drops and stuff. I think they'll make really beautiful, striking cards. So those are the two dies that fit inside this. And while I have this die out, I'll quickly show you how the gorgeous stamp would actually fit inside this as well. The stamp is slightly more of a narrower tree than the die, but the die will work with the stamp as well, and it just adds these gorgeous swooshy side pieces to the tree as well. So I have actually used these in conjunction with each other, so you'll see that on a couple of cards later on too. And while I'm showing you everything that it coordinates with, it does actually coordinate with the stencil as well. So you can die cut your tree maybe out of green cardstock, and then use a sticky ink pad, a white ink pad, and like pounce through the stencil, and then maybe heat emboss, or maybe if you've used a glue through the stencil, you could then add glitter, or you could just draw through the stencil with a white gel pen and colour it in. There's loads of different ways of like adding the snow to the tree using the stencil. I didn't actually get a chance to because I got a bit carried away. I think I've got like 9 samples to show you, and I still didn't even get round to doing an example with the stencil and the tree together. I've used parts of the stencil for the backgrounds, but I didn't get a chance to actually use these two together. But you can see they're just layering them on top, how perfectly they do go together, which is really nice. And then also this one round here as well, you can also line that up in like a couple of different ways actually. You could do it more towards the bottom of the tree, or you could shift it up and do it more towards the bottom, and maybe even repeat that bottom piece as well to give more design on there. And you also have like those little dots that could be extra baubles on the die cut tree as well. So there really are loads of options with this one. So those are the two main trees. And then going back to the die set again, considering that's what I was showing you to begin with, you've also got a lovely little bow, or that you can use across the top of your card to sort of hang baubles off of. You could use this to decorate the trees as well, especially if you've just die cut a solid tree. You can add this gorgeous piece in as like kind of more of a natural decoration because it kind of looks a little bit foliagey, but also it could be a stylized kind of tinsel design as well, which would work really nicely for decorating the tree, and you can cut it to different lengths as well. Or it can go all the way across the card for things dangling down. You could use it as a border on your card. You could cut it into the little sections because it's kind of in like 3 little branches, and use it to create a wreath as well. That would look really lovely. So lots of different ways of using that little die too. Then you also have these snowy pieces, which you'll know I just found that one on the back of the die set. I really did think there was another one, but I couldn't find it anywhere. But you have these 3 snowy pieces. This is like for the top of the tree, and then these ones are for further down the tree. On the tree that I did, I just kept using this little piece because I obviously forgot that there was this little piece and couldn't find it, but it would look better with that little piece as well. So you've got those for adding snow to just a plain die cut tree, onto the detailed trees, or even onto the stamp tree, I guess, as well, or the stencil tree. You could even add die cut snow as well as stenciled snow too. Then you have a couple of present dies. So you've got this gorgeous rectangular present which has die cut detail on it with like the ribbon and the star design on there too. And then you also have 2 extra squares down here, and these coordinate with the stamps. So when I get to the stamp set, I will show you all the stamps that coordinate, all the dies that coordinate with the stamps. So you've got a larger square and then a smaller square which does actually have detail to create a little parcel with ribbon on as well. Then also you have a bauble die, and that bauble die does work with the stamp too, but you have 2 different designs that could go inside the bauble if you want to do die cut baubles rather than stamped baubles. You have 2 different stars that nest inside each other, so perfect for creating elements to scatter across the card or for using on top of your Christmas tree. Depending on how tall your card is or how much space is left, you could use the larger or the smaller star. Both work really nicely, or you can even layer them up on top of each other with a little bit of 3D foam to give some more dimension to your card. Then you also have a snowflake die, which works really nicely with those little fall away snowflakes from one of the tree designs. You also have this sentiment here, which I didn't actually use in the end, but it says ho ho ho. So perfect for all sorts of different Christmas cards. You could even use that as a gift tag on a Christmas present as well, or do some kind of card with a gift tag sort of element dangling off of it too. Nice extra little sentiment to have really, that just says ho 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 with 2 little baubles as 2 of the O's in the sentiment, and in a nice little shape as well. So you've got that gorgeous little shape which might actually coordinate with the stamped sentiment, and I'll show you that when I get to the stamp set. And then you do have a little candy cane as well, and then all the rest of the dies that are on here coordinate with the stamp set. So you've got one to cut out gingerbread man, a bow, the other bow, the holly with berries, and then down here a snowflake as well. So I will show you that with the stamp set right now so that you can see all the ones that coordinate. So this is the gorgeous stamp set, and we actually get the stamp set in packaging this time. Usually when we get a small stamp set like this, it's often just the stamp set in cellophane, or that's what I usually get. But yeah, we've actually got the little packaging for it as well, which is really nice because it means you remember what it was supposed to go with. And you could actually slot this in the back of your packaging for your dies as well. You could actually just have this in the back of the pocket, especially if you like to keep everything all together. It will just fit in the back of the pocket really nicely, which is nice. Or if you bought the any of the refills for the binders, or one of the binders and you haven't used the refills, you could also just use one of the pockets from that to put this in as well, and just have it as the next page behind this one. So different options for storing that too. So the coordinating dies for these are the large square goes around that large present there, and then we have the small square goes around this little small parcel here, and the rectangle goes around that long present. Then we've got this one to cut out that little bow. We've got this one to cut out this little bow, and you'll see all these cut out on one of my cards. I did make a feature of these little presents. You've also got the die that cuts out the holly as well. So there's a little 2 leaves of holly and 2 berries, and that one cuts out perfectly. And then you also have the gingerbread man, and you have the bauble, which gives you the little bauble cap of the bauble as well. So you can actually use that to cut that one out. And then you also have this little piece to cut this snowflake out if you want to 3D up your snowflakes or add them on top of the Christmas tree as different embellishments. And you also have a die to cut the star out, and the larger one cuts around the outside of the star, and the smaller one does actually cut the centre of the star out. It leaves a tiny little border, but it does actually cut that centre piece out as well. So those are all the ones that are designed to coordinate, but you also have the one from the outside of the ho ho ho, and that does fit the sentiment in that's on this stamp set as well. So the Merry Christmas will fit inside that fancy shaped die as well if you want to use that to sort of mount this on the front of the Christmas tree. Maybe you've used this decorative tree and you want to sort of mount the sentiment in front of it, but you don't want ho ho ho, you can have Merry Christmas on there as well. So those are all the dies that coordinate. I'll just put all of these away and then I'll come back and show you the stamp set. So for the rest of the stamp set, we have that gorgeous Merry Christmas. We have the main focus is that gorgeous large tree, which says joy, hope, believe, peaceful, sleigh bells, festivities, wonderland and Christmas time. As the sentiments down there, and you can snip the sentiments out separately. So I've actually used Christmas time as an individual sentiment, and you might notice that the word Christmas is in the same font as the word Merry from this Merry Christmas. So if you wanted a larger sentiment, you could use the Merry from here and the Christmas from here as well. Which is a really nice alternative, or you can also snip out any of these extra separate words and use them as your sentiment on your card as well. So it gives you lots of nice versatility for using those. And as I showed you before, this die works this stamp works perfectly with the Christmas tree die as well, so you've got more options for using it like that. Presents, you've got this gorgeous large square present with like the diagonal piece of ribbon and little stars on it. You've got a rectangular present with the ribbon going across it and like a stripy wrapping paper. This one reminds me of like a little craft paper parcel. That's how I coloured it in my card. You've got two little different bows to go on top of the present, so when you die cut these you can put them anywhere on the larger two presents, or you could even cover up the tiny bow on the little present as well. And you've got the larger little bow too, so you've got different options for what kind of look you're going for, or if you've got lots of presents on the card, you've got two different bows, so it's not like a repetition of the same bow on every single present, which is nice. Then you have the star that goes at the top of the Christmas tree, and you have the dies that coordinate. You've got this gorgeous little dotty one, which you can use to hang your baubles. So you've got the little bauble stamp there, and you can use that to hang the baubles. You could create a whole background out of it. You could use it for underlining your sentiment. You can curve it and create different designs with it that way. Loads of different ways of using a little dotty stamp. Even just adding a little bit of detail in the background actually is a really nice way of using it. Talking of that little string, you've got the warble as well, which goes perfectly in the die, so you can cut them out nicely. You've got the little sprig of holly with 2 berries this time. Usually you get 2 leaves and 3 berries, so it's a little difference for that little cluster. You've got a solid little star. You've got this one which you can stamp multiple times to create like a bow or a swag going across your tree, or it kind of looks like a little smile just as it is like that. You've got 2 little dash lines that can be like next to the star to show it's shining, or maybe movement from the bauble or something like that. You've got that little extra piece to do that. You've got a little open star which is the same size as the solid star, and then you've got a little 7-pointed open star as well, for an extra little element to scatter across the background. Then you've got a gorgeous little snowflake which does have that coordinating die. I love the gingerbread man, and you have the coordinating die for him as well. I've got one left because I did use quite a lot on a card, but I've got one left that I'd coloured and cut out, but he's so adorable. I love little gingerbread men. And then yeah, that's all of the stamps that are on the stamp set that coordinates. And then we also have the stencil that coordinates as well. So you've got the one that gives you like all of the snow for the tree. You could even just stencil the tree as well if you wanted to, not use the dies or stamps or anything. Just stencil the tree, and then once you've stenciled this with like, I presume this would be white because it looks like the snow kind of landing on the tree, and then you could draw in extra pieces down the side and colour those interior portions green for like the actual tree part of the tree, and then this is all the snow that's landed on top. So different ways of using that kind of one. I gave you a few examples earlier as well. This one, even though it is supposed to kind of like decorate the tree or create a more stylised tree, it actually reminds me of water or the sea. So you could actually use this on another card to create some sort of movement of water or a sea kind of theme as well, which is nice. It's a versatile kind of stencil. You've got the circles that are great for baubles or just for adding extra details in the background. You've got multiple different snowflakes. So you've got this gorgeous one here that has like a tiny little snowflakey bit in the centre of it, and then the separate little pieces, a tiny little star, a cluster of the little 4 pointed stars and dots, another tiny little snowflake, this kind of almost like windmill sort of design as well, or it could be a really cool funky geometric sort of snowflakey design, and then a couple of other snowflakes as well. So you've really got a lot of versatility for creating your backgrounds with all these snowflakes. And if you're ever worried about over inking something, like for example you just want to use this portion here but you're worried about getting the ink over the edges or into these designs that you don't want, just take some post-it notes or even just some scrap paper with some removable tape on or washi tape, and just mask off all the areas you don't want. Add a bit of extra around here. That'll help hold the stencil in place, and it'll also stop you getting that funny harsh line that you can get if you accidentally over ink. I do find I'm more likely to over ink if I've been using like the little brushes. I suppose not so much with these smaller ones, but especially the larger ones, because you think, oh, I'm just going to get that, and then all of a sudden some of the bristles have gone over the edge and given you a little bit of extra inking. So definitely use washi tape or post-it notes or something to mask off any areas you don't want as well. If you've not thought of sort of how to do that, that's a way of definitely making sure you don't over ink and get areas that you don't want as well. So especially if you wanted to use this as like water, you could really mask that out and just keep this area free and use that to create your design. And also actually it's especially good when you're using like a three-dimensional texture paste as well to mask off everywhere else, because it is really easy to kind of just move your palette knife and get one of the areas that you don't want as well. So yeah, good tip to know for using stencils and just parts of them. But it's a really nice one that they've filled in all these extra areas, because they could have just given you the tree or just that tree, but the fact that they've given you all these extra pieces is really nice. So it's kind of like not a stencil that you would use just by itself. Like you wouldn't sort of place that on your project and spray through it and that would be your complete design. It's more of a building kind of stencil that will work in conjunction with the stamps and dies, or also by itself just to create a Christmas tree too. So that is all of the stamps, dies and the stencil that's in this month's showcase. And then now I've got all of my samples to show you as well. So the first 3 samples are really clean and simple Christmas cards, because the Christmas trees in this set are so beautiful. You don't really need much inspiration of how to use them. I have done some cards with them, but I thought for my sped up video I wanted to show you some ways of using the smaller stamps from the stamp set and like using some coordinating dies with them as well, just to show you extra ways of how to use the set after you've sort of you know, used up all your ideas for the Christmas trees, just other ways of using all of the little elements within the set as well. So hopefully you'll find that useful to be able to see some extra ideas. So this one literally just the gingerbread man and the sentiment, and then using the coordinating die for the gingerbread man. You'll see in the video I did start trying to stamp the gingerbread man in the wreath design, but obviously you're then trying to replace a dirty stamp each time and it kept double stamping, and I was too lazy to clean the stamp off and redo it, so I decided to just stamp them all and use the coordinating die to cut them out because I had it. So it saves a lot of fussy cutting having the coordinating die, and I thought it just looks really clean and simple and a cute Christmas card as well, just with the little gingerbread men on, and perfect for anybody who loves Christmas baking or just baking in general. A perfect Christmas card for someone like that. So really sweet little gingerbread men, they're so adorable. And the dies for these as well, I didn't properly say that, but they've done them so that you can stamp and colour first and then die cut them out, you can actually see the whole image through the open aperture of the die, so it makes it really, really easy for cutting them out, which is fantastic as well. So really, really simple card. Then I also did one with the presents, and I wanted to show you how you can incorporate stamping straight onto the background and also die cutting and adding them on top as well. So there's a few presents that were just stamped straight onto the background with the sentiment, and then I also stamped out a load of extra presents and bows and then die cut them out and added them on top as well. So you get a little bit of dimension with the sort of extra layer of card of the different elements, but you've also given perspective, I suppose, because you've got some stamped in the background and then some are in the foreground. So a quick and simple Christmas card idea for using lots of the presents as well. So I thought that's a really nice one to do. And then this one is using that kind of bow sort of piece, or that could be tinsel or something, on the Christmas tree. I think I cut it 4 times, maybe 5 times, and I coloured some with the darker green pen that I was using, which are the Nuvo alcohol pens, and then I kept some with the grass green card that I've cut them out of, and I just snipped some in half and moved them into different areas. And added them to the top of the card. Then I've done lots of the little baubles, and I cut them out with the bauble die. These are only, the stamp is only a circular design, so all I did was take a fine black pen. My favourite one is the ARTEZA one that I'm always showing you. And I drew on that little top portion, like the little bauble cap, and then coloured it with the same yellows that I'd coloured the stars with, just to fill in the area. So I die cut them first, and then I drew that little bauble cap on. You can leave it without as well. I just thought, because I wasn't drawing the string coming on top of them, I thought it looked better just having that little top piece of the bauble, and it also balanced the yellow across the card as well, because otherwise these were very red and green and the stars were just yellow, but having that little yellowy gold piece on top of the bauble, I think it ties it all together. And then you'll notice that the sentiment on this one is the bottom of the Christmas tree. So all I did was I stamped the lower portion of the Christmas tree and then just cut really close up to the top of there and then the bottom of there, and then trimmed it at an angle, and then you get the Christmas time as your sentiment. But also don't forget, you could have done the Christmas and then had the Merry on top of it as well, if you wanted Merry Christmas as your sentiment but you wanted it to be larger to take up more of the card. And then I've just added in a few of the solid stars stamped in black, just to balance that boldness of the sentiment, and I think that works quite nicely. So those are the 3 that are in my sped up video, which should be up tomorrow or in a couple of days' time, depending. And then I also did all of these ones as extra ones to give you the inspiration with the Christmas trees. So this one was an idea that I had. So basically, you do the exact same thing on 2 pieces of cardstock. So I did stamping in green onto white card, and then heat embossing in white onto green card to give the same sort of a look. I wanted to keep it quite monochrome kind of a look, but you could have just done like black stamping on 2 different colours as well, and that would have worked just as nicely. I know it kind of looks a little bit complicated like this, but basically all you do is you stamp out the Christmas tree, and I did those 3 snowflakes and stars on one side, and then I did the second sheet, and then I came back to the first sheet and put them on the other side as well, so that I had the 6 little elements floating in the background. So you have your main design that is the star, the tree and the little scattered elements, and you have that twice on the 2 different colours, and then you take the coordinating dies. I used the smaller star and the Christmas tree, and you cut the tree and the star out of both pieces, and then you swap them. So you put the white tree in the green background and the green tree in the white background and stick them down together, and you swap the stars as well. Then you take that to your paper trimmer, and you've got to keep the measurements the same to try and keep the sentiments going the same as well. So I think I did mine at like 2¼ inches, because the whole piece was 4½ inches wide, and so I cut them both into halves down the centre, and I quite liked the look actually of just the reverse of them when you put the 2 halves back together. So having the green background with the white tree but all the way down the half of it, and then the opposite on the other side looked really good as well. So you could stop there, but I decided to then chop them again the opposite direction, so I cut them into quarters and then mix the quarters up, so you end up with 2 cards that look really quite complicated, but it's actually not too complicated. And even if you're a little bit off, it doesn't look too bad. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but I was a bit off down here. The top of it lined up practically perfectly, but the bottom I was a little bit off on, and you can see here that side of the M is kind of missing, and then it's doubled over here, but it still looks fine. You can still read what it says, so don't worry if it's not exactly perfect. And I'm sure I've messed up a little bit in the middle as well, just, you know, like millimeters out and stuff, but I think it's a really cool idea for Christmas cards. And I mean, depending how many you were making and how good your brain is at keeping track of all the different pieces, you could do this with loads of different colours all at once, because you have your stamps set up in your stamping platform. And especially even if you didn't add the pieces in the background, so like the little stars and the snowflakes, if you just kept it with the tree and the star, it would be even simpler, because all you have to do is stamp that on every single piece of cardstock, making sure your cardstock is the same size so that everything will mix and match together. But yeah, it's really, really easy to do, and I think it gives quite a nice effective card. And then I also splattered on some white ink onto the green side and some green ink onto the white side as well, and then added a few little snowflake sequins. Those are the new Starlit snowflakes. Are they called that? Yeah, Starlit snowflakes, the little clear ones that are in here. I really love those ones, and they work really nicely on any kind of colour of card then as well. So hopefully you kind of like that idea. I was going to film it, but then I wasn't sure if it was going to work, so I didn't film it in the end. But if you would be interested in this idea, let me know, and I might do it for my advent in December maybe, because I've got quite a lot of videos I need to film for that. So that's a cool kind of geometric-y, graphic kind of idea for using the Christmas tree, and that's with the stamp and the die together. Then I've done a tag as well. So this one is using sort of more rusticy kind of colours, and I layered the two trees here. So the front tree is the Happy Holidays one, which I also, I just put glue behind the word holidays and happy, and then stuck 2 pieces of gold mirror card, and then once the glue was dry, I trimmed like along the curvature of the words and around the edge pieces so that the sentiment would stand out nicely, because I made it a bit busy in the background. I thought I wanted the sentiment to stand out really nicely. And then behind that die cut is a solid tree cut from glitter card, and then the other tree cut from fern green CRaFTi cardstock, the textured one, and layered in the background. So it gives a little bit of interest to the green in the background, but it doesn't detract too much from the foreground because it's green on green. So if you did that with like white and red or white and green, I think it would be a little bit too busy, but having it green on green I think works nicely for adding the other one over the top. And then for this one I also put the star on the top as well and kept it with the same mirror card that I used behind the word. And for this one the star is lower down, so this is the stamped star, so it's slightly smaller than this star because this die would cut that stamp out, and you can see how I've sort of hovered it above the tree. But with the tag you want it to be attached to it, because otherwise there's nothing to stick it to, so I've just moved it down a little bit and stuck it to the top of the tree. And then the back of it I put another star on the back and then just left this white so that you can write on it as a gift tag. And then I did 2 more cards. So this one is a pretty simple kind of card, and you can see here how I was using that snow. That larger piece would have looked much better here rather than using 2 smaller pieces, but it's, yeah, you know it's in there now because I obviously lost it and then found it, but yeah, there's a larger piece of snow which would work much better in areas like this. But if you do lose that die for whatever reason, the small piece does work as well. So that's just showing how you can add the snow to the Christmas tree. And again, this is the green glitter card in the background with the fern green cut on top, so it's exactly the same tree elements that's behind this craft one, but this is just the main focus on this one. And then I paper pieced the gold cardstock back in, so I cut another one from gold cardstock, which is what I used on the next card. That spurred on the idea for the next card, and I paper pieced those back in, so you've got the little gold elements to match the little gold star, and this one is the smaller gold star, and you can see how the 3 different sizes work really nicely. So that's the stamped one, which is in the middle, the larger star, and then the smaller star. They all work really nicely on the trees as well. And then I added 7 little red candy canes, because you get that beautiful little candy cane die. I decided to leave them just solid red, but if you look closely you can see they've got that debossed or embossed kind of detail on them. So if you wanted them to be red and white, you've got the areas indicated to you for where you can colour with a red pen or a white pen, depending which colour you cut them out of as well. So it's really nice that they do that for you too, but you can just have them as a solid colour as well. I've done a few little silver snowflakes. So this was the larger snowflake from the die set, and then the smaller ones are the fallaways from the tree. So I cut part of the tree in silver so that I could get the little snowflakes as well. And then I've just added them onto the card. And then I've used the Merry Christmas, and I've just cut it into 2 separate banners and laid it up with that same silver cardstock that I've used for the snowflakes as well. And then the background, I maybe should have used more of a grey colour rather than a browny grey, but I don't mind the look of it actually. This was the pumice stone distress oxide. Maybe I should have used like hickory smoke or something, but I just used one of the small blending brushes from Tonic and added a little bit of the stenciling in the background. So I've got like a couple of the snowflakes and then that little cluster of the little sort of cross sort of stars with the little dots in, and I think that just adds a nice little subtle background that doesn't detract too much from the main Christmas tree. So that is that card, and then the final one is going Nuvo heavy, and I wasn't going to do this card, but I had this gold die cut out, and I thought, well, I haven't done this technique in a while, where I basically you take the die, you cut it from white card, and then you also cut the outside tree just from white card, a solid outside tree as well, stick them on top of each other, and then you have your areas for flooding with your Nuvo products. So I used 3 of the new Nuvo drops from the Santa's Workshop colour trend. So I used the Rudolph's Nose and then the glossy green one and the glittery green one. And I also brought in the what's it called, Emerald Isle vintage drop as well. So I've got a little bit of difference between gloss, matte, and then the iridescent and glittery kind of finishes as well. And then I just flooded in the different areas, and I decided to use the red for all of the decorations on there, and then I decided to do alternating between the glossy green, and then the other ones are the matte vintage green, the Emerald Isle, with a bit of the glitter at the bottom, so it gives it kind of more of a defined look between the different tiers of the tree. And then I stuck, once it was all dry, I stuck the gold one on top, so the gold die cut that I had left over from the previous card, because I wanted the pieces that had fallen out of it for that card. I stuck that over the top, which neatens the whole thing up, but then you also have elements on this top piece that you can add your Nuvo drops to as well. So there are a couple of small baubles that I added the red to, and then also these kind of beads or bauble strings that are coming down the card I also added the red to, and I really like this one. It gives a really luxurious kind of look to it. It almost looks enamelled, and actually, because you put quite a lot of effort into this, you could make it so that this was removable and maybe had a hanging piece on it, and then it could be a Christmas decoration for the tree as well. You could even do it with like magnets to stick it to it, or you could just use a glue dot or something and then write inside that the decoration on the front is removable and you can use it on your Christmas tree. But I think that would be quite a nice idea. And this one, I decided to move it further up the card and not put a star at the top. And then I used my Dymo to do my Christmas wishes at the bottom, because I thought that would go quite nicely. And then to balance the black of the sentiment, I stamped some of those extra stamps in the background, just to give, again, a subtle background that doesn't detract from the tree, but it balances the... Oops. It balances the black of the sentiment, which I always think is really lovely. And you can see how this tree is slightly too big for an A6 or A2 kind of card. It is slightly wider, but I don't mind it hanging off like this. And because I trimmed down my card blanks and stuff anyway, this should still fit inside an A6 envelope. I'm pretty sure it will still fit inside. So yeah, but if you are worried, you can also trim off the edges, because this one I left hanging a lot over one side, so I might want to put this in a square envelope because I've added extra to it this side, or I could just chop that off if I wanted to as well and make it flush to the edge of it and just part of the tree is missing. And then also on these two, when you're cutting them apart, you want everything to be even so that when you swap it with each other, they will look the same and they'll fit together. But when you then come to add it to your card, you can trim it to whatever sized pieces you want for these blocks in the background. So this one I moved this way on the card, and you can see I chopped off part of it over here, and these blocks are actually smaller than these blocks, but on this one I moved it the other way, so I chopped off part of the tree on the other side, and so these blocks are smaller than those blocks. I hope that kind of makes sense. But yeah, basically what I'm saying is this tree is kind of quite a large tree, but it does still work on your smaller cards, and you can either trim off one side, the other side, leave it hanging over and put it in a larger envelope, or put it right in the centre, and you just have tiny little overhangs that should still fit into an A6 envelope as well. So I hope you enjoyed this up-close video looking at Tonic Showcase number 12, which is the Happy Holidays die stamp and stencil, which is a lovely different take on the showcase, I think, having the stencil in there as well. I hope you enjoyed all the different ideas that I've shown you, with some really clean and simple kind of ones, some more very Nuvo based ones, some extravagant looking ones that are pretty simple to put together, and even like a gift tag idea as well. And all of these you could use for different elements too. You could just cut the tree into quarters and stick it back together and turn that into a gift tag as well, rather than placing it back into the cardstock and turning it into a card. This could be a gift tag instead. You could do the background with this kind of technique, but put this in the middle, or put this in the middle as well. I think just a quartered background like that with then the focused tree on there would look really lovely as well. So there really are so many different ways of using this stamp die and stencil, and hopefully if there's any of you that haven't started your Christmas cards yet, maybe this will spur you on to start them and give you some ideas of how you might want to do them for this year, or you know, give you something extra to make you make those last few Christmas cards that you haven't quite got around to making yet. So really hope you enjoyed the video. All of the products that I have used, including the showcase bundle, will be linked below the video, and also as little picture links on my blog as well, and they are affiliate links too, so I really do appreciate if you use those links to place your order. It really means a lot to me. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully the sped up one showing these 3 cards will be up tomorrow, or around tomorrow, maybe the next day, depending what other videos I've got going up as well. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!